You spend $3,000 on this multi-day conference to enhance your personal and professional impact. You get there, and by day two, you're already overcaffeinated, dehydrated, sleep deprived, dealing with hangovers from both alcohol and sugar, and your nervous system is fried from all the forced networking. Yet, you tell everybody, oh, this was a great conference. Hi, I'm Dr. Jarek Conrad. Welcome to Healthy and Black, where I share information about the state of health for Black America across 7 categories, from emotional health to physical health. I became plant-based over 15 years ago after losing so many of my family members to chronic health issues. Now I want to help you take control of your health. Welcome, everybody, to the latest episode of Healthy and Black. I got some kind of alert on my phone that said, congratulations for 1 year with Healthy and Black. 1 year? What are they talking about? It seems like I've been doing this for a few months, but it indeed has been a year since I've been doing a podcast. I don't know what the stats are, but there are only a handful of podcasts that make it past the 1 year point. So I'm glad to still be doing this. And I'm really excited to talk about what I want to talk about today. Though you might not be excited to hear it, because I'm probably going to burst some bubbles for people. But I just have to say this. I was at a conference Thursday through Sunday of last week. Wonderful people, an organization that I'm part of that I love. I enjoy networking with the people in the organization. We had some content rich sessions. A lot of really positives. On the other hand, because I am me, I look at everything a little bit differently than other people. And the thing that sticks out the most was that there were a lot of discussions around health and wellness. And this was good, because you don't typically hear that. There are a lot of discussion around health and wellness, especially around health disparities and chronic health issues. So the education and the awareness about these issues and really the urgency to talk about these issues was present. I was really excited about that. That's the good news. The bad news is that everything about conference culture, including this conference, proceeded to undermine all the positive things, all the things that we were trying to help people be aware of, all the advice that we're giving people about taking better care of themselves. We just undermined everything with the way the conference is set up. So this is what I saw. Early morning coffee because people needed it to get up for the day. Unhealthy breakfast in the morning times, hours of sitting in those hard chairs in these conference rooms that there are no windows. So, when there's no windows, no natural light, it disrupts our circadian rhythms. So that's not good for learning. So you're not really achieving the thing that you're trying to achieve in those rooms because our brains are not really poised to take in what's being presented. But yet and still, we sit there, we squirm around, sitting there all those hours because we don't want to get up to interrupt the people who are speaking and all that. And then we finally make it to lunchtime, and then there's an unhealthy buffet. You got to stand in line and trying to talk to people while you scoop up the unhealthy food, and you barely get a chance to eat it because, again, you're talking to people. So then everybody sit back in the chairs for another few hours, listen to some more, which is probably really good information that we're not taking in. And then it's happy hour time. So after this long day, everybody's running to the bar. Bar is crowded. People start drinking. Got a little bit of a break, and then there's dinner. And so at dinner, probably unhealthy food. In fact, when you ask for plant-based meals, vegetarian and vegan meals at these large conferences, they almost treat you like you're a problem, like you're just such an inconvenience because it's not what they prepared for. And then they'll tell the meeting planner oftentimes, oh, we got them covered. We have some great options. And they end up bringing you an option that is just didn't take much thought. It was clear that it was an afterthought. They didn't put the level of effort and creativity into this that they tried to put in to the other stuff, even though the other stuff was unhealthy. They at least tried to do something there for people. So if you're trying to eat healthy, you survive dinner. By the way, the wine is flowing at dinner. This is after you've already been to the happy hour. And then late night. So there's late night networking. And of course, late night networking, you're going to have more liquor. So the bar is open. And so you end up getting to sleep very late, and the sleep quality is not very good because you just had some alcohol and we're just eating. And you've probably been, caffeine all day. Then you wake up and you repeat the same pattern again. So you do that for 3 or 4 days, and then you gotta run to the airport and probably get delayed, and you get home late. So it really disrupts everything, and it's sad because I went to the gym. My wife and I took turns going to the fitness center in the morning times, and there were probably 3 or 4 people, 3 or 4 attendees from the conference at the gym. This particular conference had about 400 and something people. And so they're going through all those stages, and there's no attempt to even try to make it to it was a wonderful facility. It had tennis courts, they had big, huge gym and swimming pools and hot tubs and all that stuff, but that stuff is underutilized during conference time. On top of that, you get home and now it takes 3, 4 days, half the week to recover from the conference. You gotta catch up on emails and meetings that you missed. You're trying to sort out your sleeping pattern. You might have been in a different time zone, and even if you're in the same time zone, you weren't getting a whole lot of sleep. Probably gained a few pounds. Note, I did lose a couple pounds at this conference. You probably gained a few pounds though, and you're dealing with just the stress of all of that, trying to get back in the swing of things, and you're not retaining what you learned at the conference, a fraction of what you were exposed to, particularly in those sessions when you were sitting in those hard chairs. Most of that stuff you just didn't absorb because the conditions weren't right for you to absorb it. So I don't know what all we're accomplishing. We're networking, we're making good connections, and we're building relationships. But in terms of personal and professional development, there's let's just say there's a lot to be desired as it relates to that. What I can't understand, though, is why do we accept that? Why do we accept that this is the way things are and this is the way things have to be? If we are serious in talking about these health issues, if we are serious in talking about these chronic health problems that so many people are dealing with, that means we have to do some things differently. And we can't just focus on, can I make people happy? Can I stimulate them in some way for the next 3 or 4 days? If we're serious about the learning that needs to occur at these conferences, then why don't we set up the conditions in ways that researchers would argue would be the best conditions to stimulate growth and development of the human brain? We know what those things are. We just refuse to incorporate those things into the way we do conferences. So I am arguing that we do it differently. We don't have to do it that way. We don't have to settle for the status quo because the status quo is damaging for all of us. So, what can we do? On the one hand, I've really been thinking about this, and you all know that I'm launching this company trying to get at the heart of these chronic health issues, or really at the head of these chronic health issues to try to help people reverse them or avoid getting them in the first place. So I'm working hard on that. I continue to do keynote speeches, and a lot of the speeches are health related to tie back to the business I'm developing. And I just decided when I came home and I started to process this and I started to think about talking about this subject in a podcast that I'm going to do it differently. So when people book me as a keynote speaker, I'm going to offer a package that's a more immersive package. So you won't just hear me talk about these issues related to, the psychology of health and decision making around taking care of yourself and all that, but you'll also get to experience what that looks like. And so I'll do a little consulting with the event planner and I'll talk with them about maybe this separate track, a track that people can opt into who are focused on having a more conscious, healthy conference experience, and we'll have some activities for them. We can do things like early morning hikes or early morning walks or at least some kind of early morning yoga or fitness session in one of those ballrooms that the organization has already paid for. Certainly, I can consult with the staff at the facility about some healthy options that are not just salads, not just basic plain stuff. We got to be able to work on that. I have been to conferences where they've done it really well, so I know it can be done well. So that can be part of this package, is to offer a little consultation and giving information that we can pass on to the staff there. There are things that we can do inside the meetings to promote a little bit more movement, a little bit more brain stimulation. There are certainly things that we can do like massage stations, or we can do some mini coaching on the spot, little 10-minute coaching sessions. So there's a whole list of things that I'm thinking about offering as a package. If you get me as a keynote speaker, I am going to come and provide an immersive experience for the 2 or 3 day conference that people can walk away feeling healthy, feeling rejuvenated, feeling renewed, feeling like they really did invest in their mind and their bodies. So I'm going to do that. But what can you do? What can you do for your next conference that you're going to? So in the morning, of course, I recommend going to the fitness center. They're often empty early mornings. They have great equipment. And it's just the idea, you get up, you start your day, instead of that jolt of coffee, workout, get that same kind of adrenaline, and you might not even need the coffee. So that's my first recommendation. But if you can't do that, at least take 10 minutes before breakfast and stretch, walk around, do some body weight exercise, some push ups, some squat. Just do something in your room before you even start the day, maybe even before you have breakfast. Between sessions, on your bathroom break, don't go to the nearest bathroom. Walk to the next one. Go to the bathroom that's downstairs or upstairs. Take the stairs. And don't be stuck in your chair. They can't force you to stay in your chair. So if you have to fake like you got a phone call and you got to get up and you got to go walk for a little bit or stretch, do that. I've done that before when it's like, okay, I got something I have to do. It's nothing to do with you, Mr. or Miss Speaker. I got to get up and take this call. The other thing, some of the networking that you do, instead of just sitting down and doing a little bit of that networking, what about walking? Suggesting, hey, can we walk and talk at the same time? That's something that can be done. There are things that you can do even prior to the conference. You know how these things are going to be. Again, if you're not someone who is likely to get up and go to the gym, what about packing some resistance bands? So you can do those 10-minute exercise with resistance bands. Snacks. Conferences are really bad about this. They're typically not a whole lot of healthy snacks. So pack yourself some protein bars, some bars that have very few ingredients that you know what they are. I love bananas. At least when you get to the venue, see if you can get a handful of bananas to keep in your bag to use those as a snack or any other fruit option if those are not typically available. Hydration is key. Hydration is key. A lot of people are walking around these conference sessions dehydrated because of the drinking and the caffeine and all that stuff. And a lot of these places, they already give you a water bottle and it's to promote you to drink water, but take your own just to make sure, or get something at the hotel. Keep it with you. Stay hydrated in those meetings. And another benefit of staying hydrated like that, you're probably more likely to get up and have to go to use the bathroom. So you don't have to remember to do it. You'll feel like I have to do it. So that I think is really, really important. Also, do a little pre-planning. I'm not really good at looking at the agenda and trying to sort out what I'm gonna do and not do. I always say that I am, and I don't really do it until the last minute. My wife hates that. But if you do that, really kinda understand what you need to be at, what is a maybe for you, and what you can skip. And find some strategic places to skip some of the stuff. You can't absorb all that stuff anyway. So find some time to say this one, you know what, I'm going to use this time to take care of myself versus running and sitting in another conference room. Particularly if you are there with other teammates and other teammates can have those sessions covered. So collectively, you all can share the learning from the conference. Be strategic about what you're going to do, but also be strategic about what you're not going to do. That's key. Think about introverts, especially who just under a lot of stress when there's just this constant pressure to be networking and just on the whole time. Just think about ways that you can exit gracefully, take the breaks that you need. It's worth it to invest in yourself to take those breaks that you need. I'm an extrovert and I still need breaks sometimes. So I find ways to do that. I want to hang out and connect and network and all that stuff, but I want to take care of myself. And I'm always going to try to put my mask on first because I'm recommending that everybody else does that. One of the most important things you can do, obviously, is sleep. Sleep. So getting to the room at a decent hour is part of it. Having a curfew that you put on yourself for your screen, that's another part of it. Not looking at devices just before bedtime. Having a nice maybe stretch before bedtime, but just planning for sleep. Trying to, again, create the conditions that increase the likelihood that you're going to get a solid night's sleep. If the breakfast is not included in the conference, some hotels allow you to order the night before. So you can order that, have that done, have that ready to be delivered so you don't worry about that. And speaking of, sometimes you already know the food is not going to be that great anyway. Sometimes just having lunch in your hotel room as a little bit of a break. Being conscious about breath work and taking several times during the day to engage in some breath work for about 5 minutes or so is critically important. You don't have to do everything. You can't do everything and retain all of it anyway. So be strategic about what you will do and what you won't do at the conference. And listen to your body. It's like we go to conferences and all of us go back and we turn back into teenagers and college students again, and we want to hang out. We want to do all this stuff that we might not have done in years. And our body is not used to that anymore. Our bodies are not ready for that. Be in tune with what your body is telling you. If your body's like, look, I need to shut down, go and shut down because you don't want it to force you to shut down. You don't want to come back and now you're sick for 3 or 4 days after the conference because you compromise your immune system with everything that you were doing. So that's really important. So do the opposite of what people are doing. A lot of people go to conferences to indulge. I'm away from home. I'm going to let my hair down and I am just going to indulge and have a great time. There's a cost associated with that. What about, wow, I'm away from home. I have some time to invest in myself. I can work out. I can eat well. Man, I can practice some self care without all the responsibilities that I have at home. Why can't we look at it that way? So flip it, you know? It's not the time to say, great, I can lay back. I don't have to do anything. It's the time to say, wow, I get to do some things. Let me go check out this hotel fitness center, particularly if you're at a conference center or a resort that has a great facility. Use the facility. Use the facility. Now, on the way back home, uh, be careful about jumping right into it, getting right on the plane, taking the emails, going right into. Just be careful about that. Take some time to wind down, to process what you've experienced, to synthesize what you've learned, to decide what are my 2, 3 takeaways from this thing that I can incorporate into either my personal life or my work life, and how am I gonna do that? Having a plan to be able to do that is critically important. Otherwise, if you jump into the day-to-day of things, it's almost like you didn't even go. You didn't bring anything back. The other thing too is that oftentimes you get to go to these conferences and not everybody can go if your organization is paying for it. What about doing it like a little summary? Maybe even using AI to help you do it now, but doing a little summary of key learnings and topics from the conference that you can share with your team or with your peers at your organization. So it's important. It's important that if you're going to invest both your time and your money in these conferences, it's really important that you get some kind of ROI and think about that ROI or include in that ROI equation some investment in yourself, your self-care. So I hope that this has been helpful. I hope I have you thinking about how you may operate a little bit differently at your next conference. I hope if you are a meeting planner, you're thinking a little bit differently about balancing people's desire just to be happy with some of the things that you know are going to be really good for them in the short and the long term. And look me up. I am going to put together this immersive experience and let's see what we could do. We may only get 10% of the participants at the conference to go and fully get engaged in this, but that's fine. You got a conference of 400 people. If you have 40 people who say, hey, I'm with this, I want to have a clean conference, and they decide to invest in this, I think that's worth it. And hopefully they'll spread the word. I want to get little badges or something that people can wear and it says, hey, I'm participating in the clean conference track or whatever we decide to call it. And let's see if that helps to generate a little bit of buzz to have more people decide, you know what, it's time to do something different. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Healthy and Black. I'm already thinking about what the next episode is going to be, so it won't be a long break between episodes. I'll have a guest. I know I've been promising guests, but I'll have a guest for the next episode. Until then, don't let culture, cost, or convenience ruin your health. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Healthy and Black. I'm your host, Dr. Jarek Conrad. If you have feedback on today's episode, please email info@jarekconrad.com. I love to hear from you. Don't forget to visit jarekconrad.com to subscribe to my blog. Thanks for listening. Please tell your friends about the podcast. Until next time, don't let culture, cost, or convenience ruin your health.